welcome to this edition of the Law Firm Blueprint. I'm one of your hosts, Jay Ruane, CEO of the Criminal Mastermind, as well as managing partner of Ruane Attorneys, a criminal defense and civil rights practice in Connecticut. With me, as always, my man down there in the greater capital area. I know we've talked about this, but the DC, Maryland, Virginia, South Carolina, Price Benowitz, Grand Poobah, Seth Jehoshaphat Price. I really like Jehoshaphat. I think that's a good middle name.
My middle name is your name. It's a crazy thing.
It's crazy. But anyway, Seth, he's also the one of the head sharks at Blue Shark Digital, SEO for law firms. Seth, how's your week going this week?
It's going well. NTL was freaking awesome. It was good to be back.
I was watching all the pictures on social. It was great seeing all the different things that people were doing.
Yeah, and look, part of those pictures are why I love it. If you schedule one conference for next year, I know you take your time, very precious to me. Not only is it warm, not only does it sort of get you motivated, but what I love about it, and it's been at the Lowe's Hotel for quite a few years with 1 year off, is that because of how it's set up, it's access to people that are upstream from you, and the people are very accessible. And that you get time with people that you wouldn't get otherwise because of how it's set up if you so choose. And I'm a people person, and friends and mentors there over there is Keith Givens. I mean, just a genius who's created the Cochran firm and National Trial Lawyers. Got one-on-one time with Mike Morris, right? This is a guy who's built a juggernaut. He has fireproof, and just the way he thinks. And this was, before we were accosted by a bunch of people wanting to sell him lead gen, until that literally the vultures came in. But for 30, 45 minutes, we actually had like a meaningful, thoughtful conversation that I would not get anywhere else. There were no distractions. It's just business of law.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I mean, I know you love talking about the business of law. We like talking about it. That's why we have this show and this podcast. And I'm happy to share this time with you so that we can talk through some things. I want to talk about one thing that came up for me recently, and we've really sort of revamped the way we are approaching our email newsletter, and it seems to be working. And it's something that I think people need to look at if they are communicating with their former clients and and for us, we also target our non-viable clients, people who didn't hire us. And if you listen to this podcast for a while, you'll know that we actually monetized that really well during COVID, and it helped save our firm. But one of the biggest things that I see with lawyer newsletters is a lot of ego, and I think that's typical of lawyer advertising in general, but it's all about, look at all the things that we do, look at our big verdicts, look at our results. But really, what we have found works best is not necessarily talking about the things that we've accomplished in a month, maybe one or two things, but really making the newsletter all about our clients. So we do a lot of giveaways, give away Amazon gift cards, Starbucks gift cards, to people who, show us your dog. I know you're.
And look, I love what you're doing. Clearly, you had a post that resonated. We're actually trying to emulate and incorporate it. We've done little stuff. We've given away pies. Our core values is pie. And finally found core values, something we can talk about in another show. Yep. I think that's worthy of a longer discussion, but I get it. My struggle has always been, as a guy who way back in the day when social first popped, gave away a flip camera, spent $500, and people loved it. And people from Omaha and people from Albuquerque were like setting their registrations, and some person out of my market won. How do you take the giveaway and turn it into something that isn't just giving away cash, which is sort of easy, right? If I say, here's something, but what I love about what you're doing is that it's tied into both newsletter, views, getting somebody to go deeper into it. As I'm saying this, are you playing around with, here's the headline that there's a giveaway, but the instructions of how to do it are further down? Like, what's the mechanics that takes it to the next level?
So I use MailChimp, and I use
which I do because of you.
Right. So MailChimp allows you to A/B test up to 3 different subject lines. And so, for example, our February newsletter went out yesterday, and just across the board, email newsletters have about a 20% open rate.
And I found that to be aggressive for most law firms that I've seen.
And well, that's MailChimp's legal statistics for open rates for newsletters in the legal. So
and I always take a stat like that. They're mostly not firms like you, but somebody that has 150 people on a newsletter list versus legacy clients, et cetera.
So we targeted this month to have an open rate above 30. We were just shy of, we were at 29.9.
Wow. The fact you're at 29 is insane. That is awesome.
Well, when you have 6,000 people on the list and you can have 30% of them open up,
I'm not trying to stop on it, but 6,000 is not that large compared to you and your practice and what you've done. That's not 20 years of clients.
No, we specifically have only gone the last 6 years. So I've got 2 mailing lists. I've got my active clients that we've done services for. That's around 6,000. And then we've got another 10,000 list of people who have aged off of our main mailing list, but we still want to maintain some sort of connection with them.
And you mean emailing list or mailing list?
Emailing list.
Yeah.
Emailing list is an email newsletter. And so this month, by A/B testing, we were able to use some of MailChimp's tools, and we got up to a 32.7, I think, open rate, which is, and more importantly, we drove clicks, which is what we wanted to leave reviews, to post to our social, the dog of the month, and stuff like that. And so, the newsletter really is great. I don't give away a Ruane branded water bottle. I know it's ego,
No, but most places I don't see that.
People don't want that.
I don't see that, though. That's not the question. Is I am having an internal debate with my people about what I love about what I'm seeing here. And partly I have a relatively new director of marketing, amazing guy, but who's never been trained. He came out of the sales world, and while he's done some space in this, the idea of purposeful allocation of resources is a higher level piece, right? Anybody can. We gave away pies earlier in the year. 30 people got holiday pies from us. It was lovely. Our open rate may have gone up slightly, but it's not that back and forth engagement. What I love, and particularly because I love my dog, is the idea that there's, submit this. And my gut is, it's not just here's a prize for the winner, but here's a certificate for all of them of the Ruane Pups Association or whatever. I mean, you'll come up with better branding because you're better at this than I am, but that type of concept that you want people not just to win, but you want everybody engaged.
So so I'll follow up. So what we've done with the dog stuff, because the dog things is really my thing that I came up with. Didn't really come up with people of dogs, but
I'm going to give Scout credit for inspiring you, but that's another story.
Well, I got my own Winnie too. So,
I know, but Scout's, but Scout's more famous than I am in the DMV now. He's like the hip hop morning show.
So what we did is we actually have a wall down a hallway in our office where what we're doing is we're printing these pictures, we're tacking it up on the wall. We're also doing the beginning of the month we do the submit your pets. Then what we do is for everybody who clicked through, so we got, say we got 2,000, 2,500 people to click through on that, but not necessarily gotten all of them to actually submit their pet.
Right.
We segment out the people who click through on that story. And then those people are going to get a special email in 2 weeks with, this was the dog that we picked this month. And here is the wall of dogs that we have of our winners, because we have January, February, March, April, May, June frames, right? So we put that up, and then we have all the other dogs underneath it because we're trying to get a lot more engagement with these people and get them to submit their dogs and engage with our social platforms and all that stuff. So it is more labor intensive than just shooting off an email.
It takes thought. And that's your greatest asset has been that your mind is always, but the question I think is twofold. I was at a presentation recently and somebody went on a tangent. They had produced a children's giveaway and it was interesting, but the amount of money, time, and attention put towards it, there's no way that it's going to allocate to an ROI for the firm. You may like doing it, may make you happy, but I think that that's something that I always encourage everybody to balance. This looks to be awesome, but there's always, I think, a balance between how much time and, if it's your time and attention, do you love it? Would you rather do that than be in the softball field versus, and that's what I was sort of alluding to with the marketing manager director. How much of this can you say, please bring me 3 ideas, we'll implement one, or I have 3 ideas, please execute? How do we take your genius and then leverage that with staff rather than just throwing different ideas out there, spinning wheels where those resources could be allocated differently? That's my question to you.
So the way I have approached having a marketing manager, and I have one, is that I recruited for talent in a specific area that I had no patience for, right? So I hired somebody to be my content person years ago, and she has morphed into now not only my content person, but after a decade has taken the mantle of the director of marketing. But I know her strength is in the content. That is tried and true. That is her thing. She's picked up a little bit of WordPress coding. She knows social. Obviously, she's able to do a lot of things. She can handle the production, I guess, overseeing the production of our videos. And we have some video ideas that we're gonna roll out later this year that I think are gonna pop. But you talk about an ROI. Don't forget, and this is one of the things that I think a lot of people tend to gloss over. We are, for the most part, lawyers within a community. And I know in large metro areas like, DC, Maryland, Virginia, you may not have that hometown feel, but not everybody in our audience is in such a large metro area. In fact, I would think that the majority of our audience here in the law firm Blueprint is actually in smaller markets, right? And even some major cities in other parts of the country are still small markets. And one of the things with that is that the ROI you get from having a thing about Dog of the Month and people following that and finding out about it and that type of thing is when you go to pick a jury, people have positive impressions about your firm already.
Look,
and so there's
when you hit it though, it's awesome.
Right.
When you give it away and it's a giveaway. And that's why, Starbucks, Dunkin' Donuts, whatever. Do you love coffee? How much different is that than the Yeti with your name on it? Like, meaning it's a gift. But when you tie it to an affinity, kids, dogs, whatever it is that you find that resonates, again, it's all about relationships. You see Neil Goldstein's new book talking about, his one-on-one relationships. I think the thing that you and I aspire to, and much of our audience aspires to, is how can you create relationships at scale? And I think what I love about this dog piece is it's trying to do some of that. It is not just a giveaway, but it is, hey, I'm sharing something with you and you're sharing something with them.
Right. And so getting back to your marketing manager thing, I think, you have to sort of get an idea of what it is. Are you a person like me who just throws ideas out there nonstop? Then you need somebody who can execute and sort of, find the wheat from the chaff, right? And separate those two things. If you have no sense for that, and I'm not saying that in a negative tone, I can't write a compelling appellate brief. That's just not who I am. I don't have the patience for it. I can't do that. There are lawyers that are great at that. There are also lawyers that are great at other areas of the law, drafting a trust that's complicated, that type of thing. What you need to do is find out what you're good at and focus on that, and then put people. So you might say, my marketing person I'm going to hire is somebody who's going to focus on social. So you get somebody who's talented on social, and then you can get vendors for the other stuff. Or maybe you want to do a ton of videos. So the person that you hire is going to be video first, and then all the other stuff can be outsourced. For you, in your situation, you brought in somebody from sales, right, to be your director of marketing. What's their one marketing thing that the person is truly good at? Is there something?
And to be fair, what we did is their passion was radio. That's where they came from.
Okay.
So we now have a not inexpensive marketing partnership with one of the large morning shows in the urban community. It's not my world, and I'm very cognizant that I don't want to pretend to be something I'm not. But these are people that we have done a lot of good for in the past, and I believe will continue. Like, it's a good synergistic that we are the right law firm for much of this community, and it's been a great ride. What I'm seeing now, which is interesting, is, okay, it's one thing to sign a contract. How do you get the most out of it, right? And look, we've talked about this in a bunch of different forms and fashions, right? Anything that's set it and forget it, you get whatever, sometimes less, sometimes more. But is there a way, from a sales point of view, it's signing the contract. But from my point of view and your point of view, it's each week, how do we become part of their story? There have been how many stories in the news in the last week? More than you've seen in recent memory. Tragedies, horrific.
Yeah, I mean, get somebody on there and talk about Tyree Nichols.
No, I'm saying, between Pelosi video being released, with in DC on any given day we have somebody being indicted for something. So what I would say is, the question is, how do you become integrated? And that's really where I'm at right now, which is, it's one thing to write a check and have spots, but how do you, just like the dog versus the Yeti giveaway, how do you present something that becomes more of an integrated relationship of sorts, rather than, relationship is too strong a term, but something that is actually connecting rather than transactional?
Yeah, it's interesting. And this is something that, you bring up a good point. There are certain marketing things that you can do that are, I don't want to say set it and forget it, but there are things that don't need as much attention on the daily as other things, I guess. Now, I use AdWords pretty regularly. We spend a couple $100,000 a year with Google and that type of thing. But let me ask you, if I brought in an AdWords person to be my main person in my office, are they going to change so much every day that it's going to make that much of a difference? I don't necessarily, versus somebody logging in once a week.
Right.
Versus somebody logging in once a week and checking out and making sure that your negatives are right and that type of thing. I'll be honest with you, from my perspective, and granted, take that for what it's worth. Trust me, I've spent millions of dollars with Google, but I don't think I needed to hire somebody in my office to be an AdWords specialist and spend days in the spreadsheets.
That's why, thank God, that's why agencies exist, because the micro time needed, not the micro, but the time needed is worth the commission, and that you would be better off. That said, love the checks and balances. And I'll give you an example of a fail. So before I had the more expensive marketing position in place, I was solely responsible. So I have the relationship with Blue Shark, great, they do their thing, but I was not doing as well on retargeting as I probably should have. We talk about it, it's easy. You and I have a gazillion sites out there. Are they all being retargeted? And somebody I knew from the industry approached me and said, hey, I'd love to be able to retarget these. What do you think? I'm like, sure, go for it. And they did all these things. I looked at reports. I look at the big picture. It was fine. I wasn't spending money, but not a ton of money. But two things happened. One, there was a point where one of the campaigns went crazy and spent way too much money. Thankfully, it was a Google mistake of sorts, and that was brought down. Google spent outside of the budget, right? But you still have to police it, because if you don't, you wouldn't get your money back. And the other was, despite, without the right supervision, a campaign was put on a site that I'm no longer monetizing, a practice area that I gave away to somebody else. The site's still in our portfolio. And so over $150, over $1,500 was spent. And you and I don't like losing $1,500, right? That's not good. But you know what? I look at it this way. During that period of time, I didn't have a six-figure employee being paid. Like, there's that, and it goes to your point. Like, what is the marginal difference if you had a full-time in-house person doing nothing but, versus paying somebody to do that as an outsourced piece? And so what's frustrating, and you sort of see this, is, and each person only can do so many things. This is I think what I'm seeing for myself, and what everybody goes through, you included, everybody included, which is whoever you have there only has so many skill sets that they can do well. And that that is again why agencies do well, because they can hire a bunch of different skill sets,
Right.
right? And at the same time, it allows you to take that person and leverage them where they can make money. If you use somebody who's great at video production and placement on social, you can make money doing that. But if they were sitting there and had to look at the minutia of how to get LSA spend up, it probably isn't going to happen.
Right. And so that's part of that's part of what, I'm talking about here. It also, I mean, in a way, it sort of goes back to something that you've said for years, is that you do what you love, right? AOL built a juggernaut on direct mail. Groupon built a juggernaut on email marketing. Well, guess what? The people at AOL had a background in direct mail. The people at Groupon had a background in email marketing. So if you have to find out, and this is something that I want our audience to hear. And it took me a long time to get this message across to myself and understand it and internalize it. You probably have one or two associates, if you are at that point where you've scaled up a little bit and you're thinking, man, I would love to get them in front of a camera so that they can do some videos, blah, blah, blah. You know what? They don't love doing they may just be the lawyer who wants to be the lawyer, and they don't want to get in front of the camera. And so you got to find another way for them to get out there or get that message out there.
I'll give you even
hire
worse.
a spokesperson.
So no. This is where it gets worse. It sucks even worse, because I'm guilty of it more than anybody. Right? You want everybody involved, yada yada. Well, look, I've been in business say 15 years with scale. Right? We have a dozen people that have been with us for 10 years or more. That's awesome. But those aren't necessarily the people that want to be on camera. The right. Junior people that love being on camera, the junior people don't always make it up through the 10 years. So now I have a whole library of people and videos of former employees. So to me, it's just like when you think about who's going on a website, who's going on a GMB, you've had, you've missed different categories. You've had some people, I'm an advocate for marketing other people, but know that while Jay Ruane is likely to remain at the Ruane Law Firm for quite a while, other people may or may not over time, right. And that you're going to have a graveyard of unused stuff that you've paid for, you've worked on. Again, there are benefits to it. It's getting people involved, it's getting buy-in there, but it is the idea that we're spending all this time focused on, the extraction of something they may not love to do. A point very, very well taken. And one, I'm about to record stuff, in the next day or so. One thing that we have moved from is having mainstays do the recordings, not focused as much on the junior people, because that will turn over, but using, the thing that I'm focused on now is employee testimonials for a recruiting page, something I was definitely not doing at the level that we needed to be done. How do we go from here's a job to here's a community you want to join, not just when you walk in the firm, but from a visual point of view?
It's interesting. I had posted something about this online, and Nancy Cavey, a friend of the show, who said, hey, why don't you, if you're doing videos, why don't you use an AI person? Synthesia is a service where they actually use avatars to do that. And I didn't love the avatar and the quality that they put out. Yes. I think yes, exactly. And then I'm starting to think, boy, wouldn't it be awesome if I built my own avatar? Not that I'm going to do it yet, but the cost and, it's probably not there yet, but it'd be awesome if you were able to have an avatar that's custom to your firm that you could use for 30 years doing all your videos, and you just have to supply it with text. And that's where I'm thinking, we're going.
And next thing I know, the Jay Ruane avatar is reading my kid bedtime stories.
Imagine that. It's funny. Just before we end the show, because I don't want to go too long today, I had an opportunity last weekend to hang out with a couple of friends of the show. Actually, Jim Aspel was at a dinner that the McKean firm held for some of their referral partners, and he was talking about how he's struggling to find talent, and it's really sort of across the board. We had somebody on Friday give their notice to take a pay cut to go into a DA's office by us, and it's difficult to find replacement people.
And this is what's weird, and maybe the market's speaking, right? You see a lot of people move. You see Ryan McKean's awesome victory, and you see other people out there crushing it in PI. I am seeing more talent in the PI space. Now, part of it is it's less jurisdictional dependent. Now, they wouldn't agree with this fully, but you can get somebody up to speed behind them in play. But that the issue that I'm seeing, and I've spoken to Jim, and Jim has had this issue for years. Like, this is not a new Jim issue. Right. But the fact what I have seen, and we've talked a bit about this, is we are seeing the hiring of mid-level B2C non-contingency legal talent. I've seen it much, much more challenging.
Oh, yeah. Like for me to find a mid-level, I'm actually now reaching out to the law schools to try to build out a summer associate program. And this is interesting. I called UConn Law, where I went, actually in response to a post. They had put up a post about how it was great having a panel of people talking about legal, about jobs, and it was all insurance companies and
at the law school.
At the law school.
Get out of town.
And I was like, I said, hey, how about having people who actually represent people? And so they called me up. They're like, here's the problem. And this is something that I think we should talk about next week's show. They said, the type of person who's going to law school now is not the same mentality of the person who went to law school 20, 30 years ago, which are where a lot of us are, in the thing. And in order to rationalize taking on such incredible debt for law school, these law students are looking to guarantee themselves a job at the beginning of their second year of law school. And these corporations can predict and budget for legal job openings 2.5 years from now. And so they're extending offers to people. And she said, and the crazy thing about it is 25% of those offers are going to get pulled back, but you're getting somebody who's locking in. So they'll bring in a class of 8
I hear you.
Hartford Insurance Company, and only 6 of them will actually wind up with a job. But I, as a small firm, I can't offer 6 people a job in 2 years.
So much there. I'm going to throw at you. One, this reminds me of the Super Bowl ad. I don't know if it was Indeed or one of the other job boards where, like, it's a little girl. My job's to be a mid-level manager. That's what it makes me feel like. You don't go to law school to work on the insurance. Like, it's craziness, right?
No, people do, because they just want security. When they come out and they've got $200,000 in loans, and plus undergrad, and they saw how much they signed for, they're like, I just want any job, because it's income-based repayment now, that I can guarantee I'm not going to be starving in 2 years. And that's what the community wants, the community of law students now. You don't have people going to law school now who are like, I'm going to bust my ass, I'm going to make $200 a week, and then I'm going to have a PI case, or I'm going to create a juggernaut in trust estates, or I'm going to be a kick-ass divorce lawyer. People like that are not going to law school. They're going into finance now.
We're not finance, but something else.
Finance.
We have a TikTok channel and make more. No, right. We got to unpack this next week. We got what I've already seen multiple times is I come up against somebody somewhere between 3rd and 7th year of a deal where if they stay in the nonprofit public defender or prosecutor sector, that they get their debt wiped out.
Yeah.
And how can I compete? Like, that wipes people out piece by piece. It is clawing away from what's possible. And yeah, what's frustrating is if I could wave a magic wand and hire, I'm not saying rock stars, I'm saying competent practitioners, not a-holes, not like, with major issues, just solid, better than average lawyers. We could create incredible growth and revenue, but we've intentionally, as big as we are, have not scaled further because when somebody leaves, I am now, and this has been going on for 2, 3, 4 years, we will let leads fall on the ground and disappear and not take the cases because I can't find people that are at least above the Mendoza line. And that's being to make sure that we take care of clients and provide. And I think that you're going to see a real issue, sort of the have and have nots. There's always going to be a few elite solo players that do fine, but the ability, there's always been the idea of when LegalZoom came out, it's how do you help people that can't get legal help otherwise, right? The person who can't afford a will gets a functional will online for a few $100s, but there's going to be a huge jump in the ability to find competent help, I believe, because you're seeing less and less people in the space.
Well, think about this. Think about how LegalZoom must be thinking about open Chat GBT. Hey, write me a will in Tennessee. And I have
But
two children.
They're one step better, in my opinion.
I agree, but I'm just saying, imagine if now, instead of you having to buy it for, $179, you can go to this website and put it in, and it's passable.
You look, there's always been free-ish ways. The idea is when you're paying a brand, there's somebody behind it. It's sort of like, we always talk about when stuff's
Tommy Boy, my name's on the box. It could be a piece of crap in the box.
Over the years, doing construction, repairs, there's something my law partner calls the favor economy. When you do favors, it never works out right. I always want to pay money and say, I'm paying for this, I'm getting this back. And if something goes wrong, you say, hey, I paid you for this, I need it. And I feel like you and I both subscribe to this, and that when you don't go that way, it is often problematic.
Yeah. All right. We just threw a lot of people there. We threw a lot of people. Okay, folks. So if you want to catch up with us, of course, every week live, 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Pacific, here in the Facebook group. If you have questions that you want us to cover in the show, please be sure to let us know in the comments here in the group, or always shoot us a DM. Seth, myself, we're happy to take your messages and rope these into our conversations. Of course, we are always available on the go. Wherever you get your podcast, just look for the Law Firm Blueprint. Make sure you give us a 5-star review. Thank you so much.
Last thing, anybody who's going to be out at AAJ, if you're listening to this live, hopefully catch up to just their Friday and Saturday nights, but look forward to seeing you.
Wow. So Saturday night for me, Seth, I'm actually going with McKean, with Garza, with some other friends, our friend from New York City, the writer, Brendan. We're going up to the Culinary Institute up in Poughkeepsie.
Your friend from the Daily Show?
Yeah,
he's amazing. That 38 at the Garden is phenomenal. If you haven't seen.
Oh yeah, Trayvon. Yeah, and he just signed on to write a movie that Jerry Bruckheimer is going to produce and direct.
He is such a talent. That the other one who won the Oscar for. I mean, if there's anybody's going to get an EGOT of your extended circle, it's going to be him. What a talented guy.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy to know I've got like a connection with a guy who's that.
I want to meet him in person, but for real, before he becomes like, I'm a Facebook friend and a Facebook fanboy, but I got to meet this guy before he's too big to talk to me.
Yeah, I think he's already too big to talk to you.
That ship already sailed. No, he's
he'll still take my calls and my texts every now and then. So, but sometimes they get delayed. I don't get a response right away because he's doing something better with bigger people. But anyway. So we're doing a Culinary Institute beefsteak dinner, and I'm really excited about that. We haven't done it since before COVID, and so this is the first time.
That's where my law partner's wife trained there.
It's unbelievable. The food there is just amazing. So maybe I'll post up some videos. I'll send you some stuff.
Let's put some food porn up there. I'm on my drop 20 pounds kick, so the carbs are down.
Hey, I've dropped in the last month. I've dropped 7 pounds, so I'm working hard at it. It wasn't easy when I came into Blue Shark.
We're getting personal. I hope that anybody who's looking for business advice has long left our show today. But the piece that I would say, I had a life moment. I'll leave it with this because I hope maybe it'll do some people some good. As you know, my drink for the last 15 years has been the iced soy latte. It has helped me, I thought, lose weight. I've used it as sort of a breakfast drink, a lunch drink to sort of get me through between meals. Seemed filling enough, gave me some energy, not that I need more caffeine. And I did a blood test recently, getting very personal, where my blood sugar had spiked to the point of the bottom end of a danger zone, like the one point into the area where you got to be concerned. And I was like, how the hell is this? And a doctor friend of mine was sort of reverse engineering the soy milk at Starbucks, looked it up, 23 grams of sugar. And that's not even a venti. So God knows what I'm getting in a venti. 2 to 3 a day. I mean, I'm approaching 100. So I was like, she's like, you're poisoning yourself. So switch to almond milk for me. Or the idea that you actually have to look at a label. And on Shark Tank, I always see Cuban looking at the sugar on stuff. I'm like, what's he doing? Now I get it, that like there's stuff that like I thought I was being healthy and I'm not. So just know that it is a complicated world, and what you think you may be consuming may not be what you're consuming.
That's for me. It's black tea or it's water. That's it.
Understood.
Yeah.
But there are other pieces that
I get the energy from the cocaine. I mean, that's really my thing. Is the methamphetamine, the cocaine.
Respectfully, if there was really the cocaine habit you joke of, you'd be this felt guy.
I'd be a lot thinner than I am.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how people know I'm not a
perhaps you need a cocaine habit, but that I shudder to think how the show would go if me on my now almond lattes and you on the cocaine, we wouldn't get a word in.
Yeah, definitely not. All right, folks, we're gonna let this go. Thanks so much for being with us. We had a great week. We can't wait to see you next week here on the Law Firm Blueprint. Bye for now.